I'm doing a breast examination and then I'll be going on to do a mammogram. Hi, I'm Stacey Russell, and in this special edition of NewsPULSE, I am talking with a cancer survivor, a doctor who is pushing for women to get screened for breast cancer in Barbados, and someone who leads a support group for women who are diagnosed with breast cancer. I'm doing this just like so many other women because it can save my life.
I felt bad and I started to cry, but then it was just something else that I would have had to deal with. So I did what was best. At that point in time, I asked the general surgeon, so how soon can you get this out? Because at that point in time, in my mind, my breasts were finding me. There were, well, mostly left one. It was basically trying to kill me. So that was my plan of action at that point in time, and I followed her suggestions with regards to what I needed to do next.
What did she say you needed to do?
She said to me, because I'm so young, I should take both breasts, so I was fine with that. And she also suggested reconstruction, which I did as well.
Okay. So you've had a double mastectomy.
Yes.
Wow.
Tanil Young, 38 years old, diagnosed with breast cancer weeks before her 31st birthday. Today, she's in remission.
Lives were just going. Stage 4 breast cancer was everywhere. There was a stigma attached to that illness. And it was looked at. There was no life after. It was a death sentence. There was no life after breast cancer diagnosis. Today, we have so many survivors that one can say, yes, there is life after breast cancer.
20 years now, Dr. Shirley Hanuman Jagru is forefront of the breast screening program at the Barbados Cancer Society, now serving some 10,000 patients each year.
So it's very fulfilling, an achievement that the program has reached a level at this point in time where we all want to do more and want to keep doing more because there's such success. I mean, recently, I'm sure you've heard me say this, we did a review on patients who were diagnosed 5 years ago with stages 1 and 2 breast cancer. Do you know what? They're all alive and well. And of course, this makes us want to go on and do more.
Tanil is living representation of trends indicating that some being diagnosed are younger than ever before.
What used to happen in the past, that most cases of breast cancer was diagnosed as postmenopausal or premenopausal, but it was really a postmenopausal woman disease. That's what it was always looked at. It's the highest incidence in Barbados is still between the ages of 50 and 65. But we're finding females below the age of 40 now with breast cancer. We've had them as young as in 26, 28, 30. And recently, last year, we had 4 patients below age 40.
Enlightenment is making a difference to early detection.
The awareness in the island of this disease being predominantly a female illness has made a difference. The walk and all the awareness around the island, different promotions, has made people realize that they need to examine their breasts. And I agree with them totally. I've always preached this because more than 85% of breast changes are found by the patients themselves. And so we really explain and help patients understand that doing breast self-examination or being very aware of your breast is very important. Because if you know your breast, you would recognize when something new turns up. And we ask you there and then, once you find something in one breast that is not in the other, make sure that you report it to us.
This is true for Tennille.
Were you feeling unwell? Did you decide that, you're going to go and be
No,
screened? How did you find this out?
by accident.
Accident.
Yes.
Explain how that accident happened.
It is kind of funny how it is, because oddly enough, my then boss, he was diagnosed with cancer of his own, and then for some odd reason, and it's not I was not feeling well, I was just feeling off, and then like I just started to, I don't know, just touch myself, and then when I touched my left breast, I felt something there.
Dr. Hanuman Jagru stresses that getting to know one's family history is also vital. Again, Tennille is a case in point.
Was your cancer so far advanced that you couldn't save your breasts?
Well, I don't think it was, but as the doctor has said, because of my young age, and then further on in the preparations for the double mastectomy, I came to find out that my father's side was riddled with all different kinds of cancers: brain cancer, lung cancer, breast cancer, prostate cancer. I'm like, what? So for me, it was a case whereby, let me catch it before it catches me, before it gets worse.
Mm-hmm.
So that was somewhat of a confirmation, for lack of a good description, as to this will be the best bet for me. But it wasn't a large tumor. It was localized to my areola area. So if I did want to do breast saving surgery, which is a lumpectomy, I could have, but I did go, let's call it the radical way of handling it, due to what the doctor had suggested at that point.
Most women aren't actually recommended to have mammograms until much older, when they're about 40 or so. What are you telling younger women?
Know your family history. I didn't know mine. Know your family history allows you to make informed decisions, and allows you also to change how you do certain things. And if you were to find yourself in a situation like I had, one of the first things the doctors are going to ask you, what's your family history? Because that then allows them to have an idea as to if your issue is one that is passed through genetics. Read. If you are diagnosed, read. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. If that doctor does not ask you, or that doctor is not one who you feel comfortable, find another doctor who you feel comfortable with, who will ask you. This is your body. You have to make the ultimate decision. But preventative measures are best. Prevention is better than cure. It's better to, if you do have it, it's better to catch it in the early stages, where there's still hope, by way of the number of facilities that could be utilized to reverse it, to literally save your life, than for you to wait till it reaches a stage 4 type situation, where what is being done for you is to ease the pain so you can go peacefully.
Her doctor was diligent from the beginning, not stereotyping her as too young.
Unfortunately, we've had patients, and because of their age, they're in their 30s, they go to their GP, and we have one recently. I was told because she's 31, she can't, I don't think it's breast cancer. Yes, I do feel a lump, but I don't think it's breast cancer. Try not to worry about it. But because she's heard us say, whatever you have in one breast must be in the other. And if you do find something there, it is something that you must know what it is. You found it. It's your breast. You know it. And you must know what it is, because nobody can tell you. I've done thousands of this, and I can't say, oh, this is definitely not breast cancer. I might have a suspicion because of my experience with it, but I can't say to anybody, oh no, this is not, and I wouldn't.
So the message is,
yes,
to doctors,
must have it checked. Doctors, please do not say this to the patients. I'm begging you not to, because breast cancer is no respect of persons. Now we realize there's no respect of age either. So women have to be aware. Men have to be aware too. Men get breast cancer too. It's less than 1%, but we do. We've had one 18 months ago, and he's in his 40s. And that was found not by him, but he hugged somebody, and she said to him, I feel a lump there, jokingly. And actual fact, when he checked it, there was something there. He didn't feel it himself. So males should be aware too. Ever so often, just pass your hand around the breast to make sure you don't feel it.
I know that men don't like to go to the doctors just for a
so true
regular checkup,
yeah.
Much less to think that they might have breast cancer. What is your message to them?
Listen, men are not exempt. It is no respecter of person. So if you find something, go to the doctor right away. What used to happen to me, this man was found early, so his chances are, his prognosis is good. But very, very often, the prognosis in men are not good because they're diagnosed late. They feel something and say, it's just, I was hit there or whatever, and it will go away. And then when they realize it's getting bigger and bigger, then they would report for it.
When Tennille got her diagnosis, she wasted no time in addressing her illness.
The doctor gave me that diagnosis. If she could have taken me to the operating room that same day, I would have done it. But I had to wait 4 or so weeks for me to meet with the plastic surgeon, the anesthesiologist, do the blood work, make the other preparations to have everything come together to have the surgery done. So I still had to wait. So I still had some time to think about it and then maybe decide, no, I don't want to. But I waited. I did what I was told to do. So that day when I was scheduled for surgery, I went and I had it done.
What support did you have? You sound as if you were on your own, quite mentally and emotionally strong. What support did you get?
I have my family. They were there. I told them, I was diagnosed and stuff like that. And they were supportive. They helped me emotionally, physically, because after the double mastectomy, there were things I couldn't really do. I couldn't drive myself and stuff like that. So I had my family there to support me, and it was okay.
After surgery, she was relieved.
As women, our bosoms are so important to us.
Mm-hmm.
And then you don't have your breasts anymore. When you woke up and they weren't there, how did you feel then?
Thank God, it's gone. It can't kill me.
What kind of reconstruction, if any, have you had?
I've had, when they took the breast tissue, my chest area was pancake flat.
Mm-hmm.
So in that surgery, when the general surgeon did the double mastectomy, the plastic surgeon came in to insert tissue expanders, which were inserted beneath my chest muscle. She said usually she's able to put some saline in there to start the process of tissue expansion, but my chest muscle was so tight she couldn't do anything. All she could do is put in the tissue as expanders. So when I woke up, I had a very flat, manly looking chest. So that's what I had for about 4 to 6 weeks. So during that time, I then visited Carib Rehab, and they fitted me with two prosthesis. Oh goodness gracious, that word is going to take me out. 2 breast molds, as well as a bra where I can fit them into, so that when I'm going out, I can actually put that on and it would mimic as though I didn't have the double mastectomy. And I was able to wear those for a couple months while I saw my plastic surgeon. I think it was every 4 or 6 weeks I would go to her, and she would inject saline into the tissue expanders to stretch the area to make room for the silicone implants, which she would eventually take me to surgery and insert.
So have you had those now?
Yes, I did.
And do you get to decide how big you want them to be?
Yes, I did.
So did you go with like your original size? Did you make them a little bigger, smaller?
I went with, well, a little bit bigger, but not so big that you can tell, because that's basically what I told her. I said, I want the implants, yes, but I do not want it done in such a way that persons can look at me and say, oh, she had plastic surgery.
Her advice to those who may not have family support?
You might not, some of the most unusual people, and unusual in a good way, find themselves in your path, or you find that yourself in their paths when you're going through things like that. Do not suffer in silence.
In fact, even with the love from her personal network, she's still connected with others, a group of women diagnosed and in remission, talking about how they can support one another.
I put my hand up and I said, I like this idea. I'm not saying I'm going to run anything or do anything, but I'm going to send down around a clipboard around the room, and any women, survivors or just diagnosed, if you want to meet, I offer my home to you to come and meet. And I believe that was in April of 2011.
Right.
And they came. And I'm sort of, okay, now what do I do?
What was that first meeting about?
Coming together, just together to form a network. Once you have something similar to someone else and you're going through the journey, just simply by meeting, you could meet on a bus or an airplane, and you could talk. You realize that you have a lot to share and maybe a lot to comfort or give support to.
And what did that meeting lead to?
It led to the formation of Bosom Pals. We decided that rather than reinventing now something brand new, we would come under the umbrella of the Little Pink Gift Foundation, which was already set up with a Facebook page, had some pretty impressive corporate customers who we would really like to find again.
It did fall to Andrea, not only a survivor but a retired nurse, to lead Bosom Pals, now meeting at St. Dominic's Roman Catholic Church in the parish of Christchurch.
What have you been doing all this time?
We've been busy.
Tell me about it.
Oh, I was looking for something a little different that would put two types of support together. So you're diagnosed.
Okay.
You hear about me, hear about the group, and you come and you sit in our circle once a month, and you introduce yourself and you tell us how you're going on your journey. If you want to, you can say nothing if you don't want to.
Okay.
And then I also wanted to have a one-on-one, mostly over the phone, for people who would be a little maybe nervous being out, don't want to talk about it to anyone, but someone who had been there and done that, a friendly ear over the phone.
So it's like pairing people.
One-to-one, like those Venn diagrams, the two coming together. So we started in 2011, I think it was June or July, having our first formal meeting at St. Dominic's.
Okay.
We may have had some meetings in a few other places, but you're going back a few years and my memory isn't as it is. As sharp near as my hearing or whatever, but never mind. And we have been meeting there except for the month of December, every month, and except for the COVID period when we were in lockdown.
So you've been very committed.
Well, it's worth it. Mm-hmm. There are women being discovered all the time. I can't say every day, but there are women dying of breast cancer. So if we can make their journey better, or if we can support them, and certainly with the Little Pink Gift Foundation, if we can help them financially in a small way, I think it's all worthwhile.
In remission, Tennille continues to be involved with Bosom Pals.
I guess it's a case whereby it's kind of like a part of me to a certain extent, and I like it. It is something that, even though it was born out of a bad situation, it is a good thing. So why give that up?
Okay.
It's a wonderful community, not just of women. We've become very close. So we have the members are kind of in categories where they're in treatment, active members, and then some rarely come. And then obviously, when you've finished and you've finished your treatment, you want to get on living. You want to get on with life, which is absolutely understandable. But quite a few women actually come just for the fellowship.
Right.
It doesn't cost anything. St. Dominic's has been wonderful. They have a pastoral center that if we can give them something towards it, but there's no hand going out saying you owe us anything.
So you're still meeting there?
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. And we started up, we're in 22, I believe September was our first meeting. After started in 2020, really, when things were shut down. I think January or February of 2020 until September of 2022, we only communicated on the phone. And some of these, what do you call them? Zoom.
Okay.
Zooms. And I'm not really very good at Zooms. I much rather in front of people. And I think people's cameras and their phones and whatever. That being said, we still have a very large group of regulars. Okay. And we have people willing to talk. And I think that's the main thing. I think they're willing to express where they're at and what their fears are. And we can sometimes help out just by listening and by giving what happened to us and let them listen to that. And we're very strict on not using the word should.
Why is that?
Because I think that implies that we know the answers to everything, and you should eat your carrots 3 times a day and you're not going to have a reoccurrence. You should do this. We can't say that. And we can't say everything is going to be okay.
Okay.
Can we? We can't. We can advise from our own experience, but we can't tell someone what they should or should not do. We can let them know what happened with us, and we discuss it.
How many women are involved in the group? I know you said some are active, some are not so active.
I have recorded over 300 women. I have currently probably about 150 who keep in touch, whether they come to the meetings or not. I probably have about, at most meetings, we have about between 25 and 35 to 40 people, depending on who's coming to speak, especially if you get certain surgeons that everybody is crazy about and they want to come and they said, leave the guy alone, let him talk, So we have a good, I would say, active group, but almost without fail, there is someone brand new. Someone just diagnosed.
Would you ever make room for men?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Have you had any in the group so far?
If it came down, no, it doesn't mean there hasn't been. There certainly have been men diagnosed with breast cancer. I think for the comfort of the men and the women, I would first meet with the men myself and see what their feelings or how they felt about it. I don't think my women would object to that. I really don't. I have said in the past that if you want your auntie to come or you want your mom or your sister or your, absolutely come, but they can't participate. They can listen.
Have women brought their spouses or partners?
We tried it one time. It didn't go. I dragged John out. Poor John. I dragged him out and there were about 3 other men there. So the men are still pretty reticent about coming around and talking, even though it was on a more social level. To be honest, I think women are more comfortable talking around women about these type of, because all sorts of changes happen. When you go through chemotherapy, you go through these, you immediately go into like menopause. And so you've got a lot of things to deal with there. And so talking to other women about what it's like and all the physical changes that go on, it is easier with women. But I would still always encourage, if the men who have been diagnosed through the breast screening need support and are going to have to be going through something, I would be absolutely happy to speak with them. And if there were more than one, we could have our own little sessions.
For the partners, the husbands,
Yes.
What would you say to them based on what the women are discussing?
Only that they shouldn't be embarrassed about it. If they're partners and they've been through it's their wife, their girlfriend, their special person, and she's had a breast removed, they've had a lot to deal with. So they actually need some help themselves too. And they should be able to talk about how they're feeling, their fears. Because certainly if their significant other is, chances are that if there were a chance that something could take her away, if she would pass away, that's a fear in the back of her mind. So that's first thing you said. What you discuss is fear. And your significant other, if it's a man, he can feel that. He would very much feel that.
Women are assured of confidentiality.
That everything that is said in this room stays in the room. And I'm sensitive to the fact I don't want to hear a doctor's name. I don't want to hear personal thing. Or you can be angry, and people get very angry about, things being surgery canceled, or the medication is not ready on time, and the frustration level. But I don't like them to be naming people.
I'm glad that you've mentioned emotions and some of what people are talking about. Generally, what are people talking about? What emotions are they expressing?
Number one, fear. Fear. Waiting for a result. I don't know about you, but remember being in school and waiting for your exams to come out, and you remember that feeling. But then if you're now waiting on the result of a test, that could put you back at the beginning of like a reoccurrence, back at the beginning of another journey. Or are you waiting to hear good news, hopefully good news? And I'm trying to get a positive swing on that too, because we try to promote positivity. And so fear, yes, but that's countered by the women in the room that say, but wait, I had to wait for such and such, and then it was good news. So you try and think that it can possibly be good news.
Okay.
And of course, we all pray. I mean, the major majority are Christian women. Okay. And although I'm sensitive to people who do not believe, and I was a little reticent, honestly, to have a prayer included at the beginning. This was pointed out when I went to the international conference, that not everyone is a believer. And so I had to be sensitive that if they're not, just be patient with us, just listen to us. But it is very much a part. When you go around that room, these women put a lot of faith in God, and I think that's wonderful.
The Bosom Pals have also devised other ways of coping.
We try to give women a little plan.
Okay.
When you're diagnosed.
What's the plan?
Well, that's it. That is, what's the plan? The plan is an individual thing, okay. But it all starts with just calming down when you get diagnosed and start thinking about, okay, what do I have to do today? What do I have to do tomorrow? And we gave out journals for a long time so that people would, and I still do, if people will start to actually examine away from their situation and try to be objective and say, I still have to take the kids to school. I still have to get that project at work done. I still have to live. But how can I go forward? You've never heard before. You've never heard of these tests. You've never heard of anything. You really are brand new at this. It's like having a baby. Nobody tells you after the baby's born, then what do you do, right? So now this is the same thing. So we talk about having a plan, sticking with positive people if you can, finding that special support person, and if it's a bosom pal or if it's our circle, we find that whatever the end result is, whatever happens to you, you're stronger, you're more empowered to handle that day-to-day stress of normal living plus this diagnosis.
So you provide this kind of support. People get a kind of talking therapy,
Yeah.
and they get tips about how to live their everyday lives. What other support do you provide?
Well, for instance, if you've been diagnosed and you're going to have chemotherapy, we call them, or I like to call them, recovery treatments rather than the chemotherapy you see on the news and in movies and things like that. So we give tips on nutrition tips on how to prepare that day, what to take to when you go to the hospital or to your doctor's office.
I'd like to think that the doctors would usually tell
You know,
people
they
this.
do. It's just we found it was needed to give people something. This is in your plan. Okay, so on Tuesday I have to have my blood test, because then my blood test will tell, results will say whether or not I'm okay to have chemotherapy, because the chemotherapy will affect your blood levels. That's what it does. That's what it's out there to do. And if it works too well, they can't then give you another chemotherapy treatment until you've built yourself back up again. I'm not sure if that makes sense to you. So if you have a test on Tuesday, you've got to wait till Wednesday to find out you've got to go in on Thursday, hoping your drugs are all ready. I'm talking mostly about the women who are going to the QEH, to the oncology department. I believe if your demeanor is feeling stronger and positive, you may have a reaction from the chemotherapy, but you seem to be able to handle it better rather than trying to pick yourself up all the time. So, you know, I mean, it's a very difficult road to go on if you're alone. But when you have support, faith in yourself, in God, or whatever is where your faith is in, I'm not saying you're going to be cured, because I'm nervous every time I have a mammogram, and that's 14 years later. That's just human nature, I suppose. But I feel and I had good support. I had a wonderful husband, family, friends. The first gal who sat on my gallery after I was diagnosed, she said, "Andrew, you got to have a plan." And that's what started that. So I learned as I went along. And as we went along, we got better at what we discussed, and we brought in just about every ologist you've ever heard of to come in and talk to the gals after our first hour, which is our private session, where we can talk to each other. You could bring your mom if you wanted to, but she can't participate.
Okay.
After that, we bring in a speaker who could be a nutritionist, a surgeon, a radiologist, plastic surgeon who looks after mammograms and rebuilding the breasts, if this is what people want to do. We've had wonderful people in, and that is providing education, again, to empower someone to speak with a bit of authority. Yes, I've heard that. And then you can dispel some of the things that you've heard that aren't true at all.
Tennille benefited from all of this, and while she never planned for having to deal with cancer before her diagnosis, prior to the illness, she was into financial planning. Tell me about the financial impact of all of this.
I want to say I am within a very small percentile of persons. I didn't really have much of a financial impact as a result of it, because the Lord works in mysterious ways, and He covered me before I knew I needed coverage. because I had, at that point in time, I had one form of medical insurance. And then where I worked, there was open enrollment. So a colleague of mine, God bless her, she knows who she is. Hopefully she remembers though. But she had encouraged me to know, why don't you sign up? But I thought at that point in time, why do I need to sign up?
Sign up for what?
Another medical insurance plan, because
Right.
I already had medical insurance.
Okay.
But I was like, okay, I'll do it. So when the diagnosis came about, I already had 2 medical insurance policies. So between the 2 of those, practically all of my surgeries, medications, testing that the plans would cover was paid by the insurance company.
Other women struggle.
When you have been diagnosed with a disease that is life threatening, honestly, it just seems totally unfair to be worried about money, but that is the reality.
Through the Little Pink Gift Foundation, founded by another breast cancer survivor, Bosom Pals is able to help women in need.
As a registered charity, she was raising money to help women through their journey, whether it be for their drugs, for treatments that had to go overseas, their biopsies, their breast forms after surgery. So anything sort of from the beginning to the end of their journey. And so she was very successful in raising funds by doing many different wonderful things. The Little Pink Gift Foundation, which is so strong and doing so well until the pandemic, a lot of the funds were relied on from our visitors who came in, our women visitors who would come in, and if there was a tea party going on, they would be right into it, and they would put their hand in their pocket, and they would, if not, they just write a check, and they were wonderful. Well, then we went for a couple of years without any of that happening, but we still had women who needed help. So the dwindling account with nothing being pumped into it has been really serious.
Ideally, about how much money do you need, let's say, per year to ensure that women who need the help financially can get it, will have it?
Let me give you an idea. Back when everything was flush and when things were going well, we had about $100,000 that we had funded for. And we were able to give about $3,000 per person. So in other words, if you were diagnosed and you needed to have an echogram, or you needed your biopsy to be sent to Florida, or you needed a breast form, or whatever you needed, you can apply. You'd have to just have your Barbados ID, because this is for Barbadian women. It's not for people visiting or whatever. It's just for Barbadian women. So you need $300 or $400. It's given to you. Then you can apply again to a maximum of, at that time, so I'm thinking when it was really wonderful, about $3,000.
Okay.
Which, trust me, it doesn't go very far, but it's a big help. Considering that some people were given money just to have a repeat mammogram, or having to have an echogram, which is $700 or $800.
When it comes to screening for breast cancer, individuals, families, other groups, and businesses have been putting out the cash.
We've moved from the basic mammogram machine to a tomogram, which is a 3D mammogram. The only one on the island. Cost us $1.1 million, which we paid for cash, money raised from the walks and donations over the last 3 years. And it has made such a difference to early diagnosis. The same for the ultrasound machine, which cost us another $300,000, paid for cash too. We now have expertise. We have an interventional radiologist who does the ultrasound-directed biopsies and mammogram-directed biopsies, putting in markers where the lesions are. These are all technologies that you would find in first world countries. And we have it in Little Bim. Now, this new mammo machine that we have, the tommogram, has a special plate for men and for women with small breasts and for women who've had, mastectomies. So it has a lot of different attachments.
The doctor admits while a cure is yet to be found, other discoveries are helpful.
When it's analyzed, between 8 and 10% of women that develop breast cancer have a family history. They might have the gene, the BRCA1 or 2, particularly BRCA1. But then we need to explain the other 90% that get breast cancer and has no family history. So therefore, we're all vulnerable. There are a few people with risk factors, the first one is being a woman, of course. 2, getting older, because it's still commoner in the older women. Another one that is important is starting your periods very young. And the younger you start your period, those females tend to have a higher risk. If you have your menopause late, our average here is probably between 50 to 52. If you're going over 55, they have a higher risk. So what's that telling us? That there's a hormone connection here. People are on HRT, hormone replacement therapy, for over 5 years. People who've been on the contraceptive pills for over 10 years. These are things that we all have to look at carefully, because research has shown that these people have a higher risk. Now it's associated with obesity. It's also associated with alcohol consumption. It's always been known to be associated with nicotine, which is cigarette smoking. But today you don't find as many women smoking. But it depends on now they're saying the amount of alcohol you consume a day. And obesity, because obese women store estrogens in their fats. So you need to be very aware of all these little things. And then diet and lifestyle, exercise, eating sensibly, doing the right things are also contributory factors that one has to look at.
Tennille, being alive and well as a woman with a family history of cancers proves that some risks are not insurmountable. What was the biggest challenge of it all for you?
I want to say telling persons about it in the beginning when I was in it, because then what would happen when you are in the throes of it and you have to tell persons, especially loved ones, about it, sometimes they break down. When I say break down, I mean sobs, tears, feet feel like jello, they start to crumble. And it's like, while I understand why they're doing that, well, this literally happens to me whereby it was over the phone though. I had told a close family friend that I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and she broke down. And I was like, I can't. So I had to hand the phone off to somebody, because I can't hold, I could not hold her while trying to hold myself. So having to tell persons while in the throw of surgeries and treatments, and having to then deal with their reaction, which is out of love, yes. But then you are needing me to hold you up while I need to be held up.
And in some instances, you were doing perhaps better than they were.
Yeah, I was. I do get and I understand that. And I guess it was just the fact that I didn't have the finances to worry about. And one of the things that a lot of women are afraid of is like, well, if I have cancer, of course you will lose one or some of your breast area, but then you have the chemo and you lose your hair. But I wasn't bothered about losing my hair, so at least that part wasn't an issue for me. I was single at that point in time, so I didn't have the worries of, oh, what will my boyfriend say? Oh, what would my husband say? What would my fiance say? Because I have heard of situations whereby women have spoken to the family, oh, but if I take my breasts away, what will my husband say? And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, if he doesn't love you without the breast, he never really loved you, but that's not for me to tell them.
Right.
You're still the same woman that you were before. You've just removed a part of your body that was slowly trying to kill you.
After 2 decades of focusing on breast cancer screening, the famous doctor in pink is now also pushing for better treatment.
In Barbados, what we do need for radiotherapy is a linear accelerator. We're still using cobalt, and that is not the way to go. We need a linear accelerator.
Explain that for me.
Now, it's a special type of radiotherapy where it's specific for the area. Now, for instance, if a woman has breast cancer on the left breast and you use the linear accelerator, it would just reach the breast tissue. It wouldn't go to the heart, it wouldn't go to the lungs. The heart is on the left side. So if you try to avoid the radiation going to the heart because it can affect the heart tissues, you see? And those patients, I always advise them if they can afford it to go overseas. If they have to have radiotherapy and it's on the left side, I try to advise them to go overseas. So we really need to upgrade our what we have at the moment. Cobalt is long gone out. And, this is something we really need to do in Barbados. Now, drugs. I feel in my heart that whatever drugs patients need, chemotherapy drugs that they need to fight the illness, it should be free. Okay?
Free.
Yes. Because new drugs are coming on the market, and quite often they're expensive and patients cannot afford it, and we're not justified. And if they can buy it, they get it, and if they can't buy it, they do without it. No, I don't agree with that.
Although the Cancer Society's program is focused on detection of breast cancer, it tries to help patients as far as possible.
That's my vision for the next few years for patients who are diagnosed with the disease, that we should be able to treat them here. Now, recently we've had, there's a company that's brought in MRI breasts, which is good. We can't do PET scans, but we can do MRIs, and MRIs would help us to monitor a patient a year later, 2 years later, to see if there's any evidence of the recurrence of the disease. But here we are, we're making early diagnosis. We have all the facilities, a small island like this. We have all the facilities for early detection. We're saving lives with that. But then, when they have to have the treatment, they have to have the best treatment that there is. You agree with me?
I agree.
Right. Because it's no halfway measure. We come to this point and stop. And those are the things we're looking for. The next thing is probably a PET scan. But patients go overseas to have that done too. They've just got one in Trinidad recently, which can scan the entire body, and it will tell you whether there's any evidence of recurrence.
Dr. Hanuman Jagru's heart is hopeful. She says it is important
to keep the awareness going. We could not have done what we've done as a small organization without the support of corporate Barbados and you, the public. You've helped yourselves to bring this program to where it is. But remember, breast self-examination can save your life by early detection. So do it. Now, I'll just tell you when to do it in case people don't do. And always ask your GP or your health facilitator to explain how to do it. Do it about 7 to 8 days after your period, and never during your period or before the period. If you're not having periods, then do it sometime in the month, but make sure you try and do it every month. You can do it in the shower. Ask our nurses if you come to the breast screening program. They will teach you. And in actual fact, that's one of the things we do at the early detection clinic. When you come for your mammogram, the nurses there teach you breast self-examination and explain to you how to do it. So these are the things. My last word to you is try and do it because it can save your life.
For Andrea, her heart is bursting with gratitude.
I want to thank them, especially because we've been begging them for money, begging them to walk, begging them to do everything, and they have come through, as they always do. Even better and more now. For their generosity, understanding, and I just hope that they will spread the word out there to any women who have been diagnosed or have gone through their journey but still need some support. It's really moving to me because there's not a lot of money floating around these days, but when I ask them, you want this little tiny pink ribbon? They put their money in, whether it's 50 cents or $50. And they know that it's going to be used for Barbadian women and men. Anyway, I just want to thank them and hope they carry on.
Antonille, her heart is pumping with pure joy. You're here in remission, you're smiling, and you're willing to tell your story, give advice. What are you looking forward to for the rest of your life, however long or short it might be?
To be happy, to travel, to have fun. That's basically it. Live, love, laugh. One of the things I thought about when I got after the diagnosis and treatments and everything, I thought, why not me? Because as I would have indicated, the stars aligned so that I didn't have to worry about the finances. So I thought, well, I was able to handle it financially. I was able to handle it emotionally. So I would have preferred it happened to me than it happened to somebody else who couldn't handle it financially or emotionally because they might not have survived it like I did. Sometimes good things happen to bad people. Sometimes bad things happen to good people. But dust yourself off, get up, and go again.
I had my latest breast examination here at the Barbados Cancer Society and my first mammogram. The first procedure was quite gentle, the second just a little bit uncomfortable. Fingers crossed for positive results. Meanwhile, the message is being diagnosed, especially early on in the illness with breast cancer, is not a death sentence. There are more and more options here available for treatment, and with support, men and women do not have to suffer. They do not have to feel alone. But monies are still needed for investment in even more state-of-the-art equipment for treatment, for medicines to help those in need. For CBC, I'm Stacey Russell.